Okay, starting in the mouth, we've got the tongue, and underneath the tongue you can see a little web. That's the lingual frenulum. Kind of tough to see in some cats like this one. Inside the mouth, though, you can see these little bumps. That's the hard palate with bumps on it called rugae. So just hard palate is fine. And then deep inside there, I'm not going to pull it open, is the soft palate's back there. All right, here we can see the larynx. That hard cartilage is the larynx. If I pin above that, we're asking for the pharynx. So pharynx is above it, larynx is below. This big cartilaginous tube is the trachea, and the squishy one next to it is the esophagus. So trachea and esophagus. Head down to the lungs. We have 3 lobes on the left and 3 lobes on the right. So I'm going to start on the right side. This is the right, I'll go superior. You can call it anterior or superior, because in cats they walk on 4 legs, so it'd be anterior, but humans it'd be superior. So right superior, right medial, and right inferior. Left superior, left medial, and left inferior. And then underneath is the accessory lobe. All right, this big muscle is the diaphragm. If we pick the diaphragm up, pull it aside, we've got the falciform ligament that holds the liver to the diaphragm. So falciform ligament. On the liver, we have 4 lobes, easy to see. Left lateral, left medial, right medial, right lateral. And in between those two is the gallbladder, that little green sac at the tip of the pointer. Kind of tough to see in this cat, but it's there. Pick up the liver, and we have the quadrate lobe underneath the liver, and this giant piece, all of this, is the caudate lobe.
I thought it was which, like
But it's fine either way.
Okay.
In humans it changes and it's a mess.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll stick with this. All right, we have the lesser omentum that covers that quadrate or caudate lobe. All right, in the stomach here, we have the esophagus. The esophagus joins up with the stomach. At the cardiac portion, it's pinned right next to the esophagus. That's where you'll find the cardiac. If we go over here, that'll be the fundus. So the fundus is all this top portion. Then we've got the body of the stomach, and the last part is the pyloric portion. All right, right at the end of the pyloric portion is the pyloric sphincter. The sphincter is just a little muscle that can keep the food in the stomach. We have the lesser curvature attached to that lesser omentum, and along the greater curvature, we have this greater omentum. It's all this yellow chunky stuff. I'm going to head into the intestines. The first part of the small intestines is the duodenum. On the exam, if you could see it still attached to the stomach, that's the duodenum. And the chunky brown thing underneath here is the pancreas. All right, duodenum will feed into the jejunum. The jejunum would be randomly out here. It's really hard to define on these cats. But the last part of the small intestine, if you can see it's hooked up to the colon, would be the ileum. So duodenum, jejunum, ileum. And those are all held by these mesenteries. Okay. The overlap we see right here, this is the cecum. Then we have the appendix sitting right underneath that. And there's a valve right here called the ileocecal valve, where the ileum meets the cecum. Ileocecal valve. Now, my cat does not have much of an ascending colon, but it would normally be here, ascending, transverse colon, and then descending colon heading down to the rectum. The rectum would be under the bladder. So there's the rectum. All right, now for the urinary system. Kidney. Cut your kidney in half. We have the cortex on the outside, medulla in the middle. You can see those renal pyramids now that we've talked about that. All right, so cortex and medulla. Coming out of it will be the ureter, this little tube. And that ureter is going to feed down to the bladder, that big sac right there. The bladder has a tube coming out of it called the urethra. Crossing over that ureter, we had this little tiny tube here that is only found in males. That is the vas deferens. The vas deferens is coming from the spermatic cords. All right, so my cat, I've exposed the male areas. We've got, there we are, the testes that were covered in scrotum. Testes have this spermatic cord coming out of them, and inside that spermatic cord was that little vas deferens, that little tube. So testes, spermatic cord, vas deferens, and then we have the penis coming out. So that little bit is the penis. But that would be it.